Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bela Biz Unplugged. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I know this is a very special edition, and Bella doesn't normally come on at 9, but boy, do I have a treat for you. Before I begin, I would really like to thank our sponsor for this segment, Imperial Management Group. The principal and chief development officer is none other than Michelle Walker Davis. She has a great team with her. And what they do is they specialize in grant development and grant management. They help businesses and nonprofits develop award-winning proposals and secure funding from government, foundations, and industry sources. Her team is there to help you navigate through today's unprecedented solutions, particularly surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact it has done with us businesses with fundraising. Learn much more how to pivot in today's economy and request a consultation now. Visit Michelle's team at www.imgconsulting.info, or you can email her at admin@imgconsulting.info, and her number's on the screen. We will definitely show that later. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sponsoring this segment. Now, I'm going to get right into today because we got a busy person that don't have much time. Now, I'd like to formally introduce everybody, Facebook and YouTube family, to Dr. Michael Toca. He's originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He received his undergraduate degree from Morehouse College here in Atlanta. He attended medical school at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, where he served as the student of the student body president and was selected in the prestigious fraternity of the Alpha Omega Alpha Society, for those of you who know that. He also completed his internal medicine residency at Brigham and Williams Hospital, which is an affiliate of Harvard Medical School. He was selected to be the chief resident at the West Roxbury VA Administration Hospital. Dr. Toca has completed many accolades. He's not going to talk about them, but I'll say something briefly. He's completed many fellowships, and he's a member of the American College of Cardiology, the Heart Rhythm Society, the Association of American Black Colleges, and my God, so much more. Bella will not rob herself by trying to say 15-letter words. I'll let him do that for you. Family, please welcome, without further ado, he is my doctor, I'm proud to say, Dr. Forrest Michael Toca. Hey, Dr. Toca, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the show today. And this is obviously an amazing platform. And thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And thank you for all you do with this platform. A lot of times when we talk about, I'm a cardiologist, a heart rhythm doctor. And a lot of times when people, and one of the first questions people ask me when we talk about cardiology is, what led to you going into cardiology? Of all the specialties of medicine, of all the fields of medicine, what led to you, being a cardiologist? And usually the first thing that I, think whenever people say that is, that I had no choice but to go into cardiology. Let me say hello to Ashley. I see Ashley and Priscilla on the screen, so I have to say hello to them when we talk. We as well as Denise. I say there's, whenever people ask me that question about why'd you go into cardiology, I think I had no choice but to go into cardiology, partially just because there's so many people who I know and have known growing up who have had heart disease. My father has high blood pressure. My brother-in-law has a weakened heart and, may need a heart transplant. And so many people who are friends and family are affected by heart disease. I wanted to go into a field in an area where I felt like I could affect people who I know and people who, look like me, and people who have, suffered from these, have not received the attention that they deserve and have suffered from these medical conditions. And so I'm, was very excited about the possibility of going into cardiology, and then pursued an additional fellowship in the heart rhythm part of cardiology. And certainly this is something that, is the number one killer in the United States. So the most deaths in the United States are caused by heart disease. And it's something that to some degree is preventable with the right care. And so it's one of those things, it's incredibly important that we do the right things to make sure that our hearts are taken care of. When I think about sort of the care of the heart, there's sort of a few different aspects that I think about that end up being very important. One thing is making sure that we, take care of ourselves in terms of what we eat. Think about our body as a vehicle. If our body was a car, putting bad gas in your car doesn't work that well. And so, what we eat is crucial to how our body performs and how we do. And so, really making sure that when we're, eating, that we're watching the things we're eating. And there's so many mixed messages in terms of healthy diet that it can be very difficult to figure out what the right things to do are. And so, eating the right types of food, avoiding fast food, fried food, that type of thing. There's unfortunately the fast food does not have, the fast food producers don't have our best interest at heart in terms of healthy eating. And so a lot of times that food is not things that is life sustaining for us. Eating more fruits and vegetables, not adding a lot of salt to the food. A lot of food that we have has tremendous amounts of salt in it. And so we want to, that raises the blood pressure and causes other problems, causes fluid retention and other problems. And so, certainly eating the right types of foods ends up being a crucial aspect, and making sure that we, sort of moderate the amount of sugar in desserts. That, really trying to make sure we're doing the right thing in terms of the food that we eat. A lot of times when I talk with patients, we think about the food that we eat in terms of our weight, whereas the weight, not that the weight isn't important, but the weight is not the most important factor. What we're eating and what we're doing is the most important factor. You can be 100 pounds and be very unhealthy. And so I would say thinking less in terms of our weight and more in terms of, what the food that we're eating, what the exercise we're doing. The second thing that ends up being important is exercise. So certainly the food we eat, certainly exercise. It's one of those things that, especially in the setting of the pandemic, it's been harder and harder, for a lot of people to do their normal exercise routine. A lot of times, doing, going to a gym or something is not necessarily recommended in the setting of the pandemic because of the risk of coronavirus. And so, you have to find other options like walking outside or riding a stationary bike at home, or, there's exercise videos on YouTube or other exercise videos that, people sell that people enjoy, but finding something that you enjoy that works for you. Doing an exercise that you hate is never going to last. You got to find an exercise that you enjoy that really works to make sure that that you can continue that healthy lifestyle. And so
Dr. Chuck, I know you always tell me about walking. I mean, the simple, basic, because we do try to go and do too much. So you always recommend walking, correct?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And the funny thing is that walking is actually, sometimes people feel like I have to go run somewhere, I have to go do whatever. Walking, if anything, is actually a better exercise because you have a lower risk of injuring your knees, of that type of thing. And it's a great exercise. So like walking outside in your neighborhood, staying 6 feet away from other people is one of the best things you can do to try to, for exercise. And just saying 3 times, at least a minimum of 3 times a week, for 20 to 30 minutes, I'm going to go walk outside in my neighborhood is a great exercise. And so it's one of those things that is, when we look at people who live the longest, we see that those are people who are active in terms of walking and that type of thing. And so it's a crucial aspect in terms of us living longer and in terms of us taking care of our heart health. So certainly the food we eat, certainly the exercise. And then, another aspect is knowing your numbers. It's one of those things where in today's medical system, our doctors are certainly responsible for us. But our insurance companies change, our other things change, and they don't necessarily, they sometimes are, with so many changes and so much movement in medicine, or on the insurance company and in those type of things, people may change doctors, people may do other things, and we have to be responsible for each of us in terms of knowing our numbers, knowing our blood pressure, knowing where our blood pressure has been running, making sure of those details, which may involve buying a home blood pressure cuff, but may involve just going to the local pharmacy and checking the blood pressure once in a while, but making sure we know our numbers and that the blood pressure is hopefully less than 140/90 and preferentially as close to 120/80 as possible.
Now, Dr. Tucko, can I interject? Because I know a lot of people are going to ask me this question. I don't want to tell you, but I cheat. I get involved too. Can you explain just in layman terms the top and bottom number? And people still ask, what does that mean?
That's a great question. That is a great question. We call the top number the systolic blood pressure and the bottom number the diastolic blood pressure. The meaning is just that when the heart pumps is one blood pressure, the top number. When the heart is relaxing is the bottom number. But the real important thing is that both of those, sometimes people say, well, as long as my top number's okay, I'm okay, or as long as my bottom number's okay, I'm okay. both numbers need to be within the range. And so the top and bottom numbers should definitely be less than 140/90, and preferentially they're closer to 120/80. You want to have the blood pressure of a 21-year-old because we want you to stay as close. We want your body to be as fit as you are when you're 21 years old, if possible. So we want to do everything to make sure of that.
So you see Michelle Gibson out of Tennessee, she's asking, if you're generally healthy, how often should you check, Dr. Toca, your blood pressure at home?
Good. So if your blood pressure has always been good, we don't expect, let's say that your blood pressure has always been within the normal range. We don't expect that it will change over a week or a month. And so then if you said every 6 months or so, or every 3 months, I'm going to check my blood pressure in the pharmacy, or if I have a blood pressure cuff, I'm going to check it, then that's a very reasonable way to approach it. If your blood pressure has been somewhat high and you're changing the medications you're taking, then you need to take it more frequently just to see the effect of medications you're taking. Or if it's just been high and you're not on any medication, you need to take it more frequently to make sure exactly where the blood pressure is. And so you want to do everything to make sure the blood pressure is within the correct range. And part of that is just documenting what the blood pressure is. And so, the other thing I would do is sometimes we'll take the blood pressure, but not write down the numbers. And I would just, some people use their phone, some people use a notebook, but whatever it is, in the same place, write down the time, the date, and the blood pressure. Because sometimes the blood pressure may run, be normal always during the day, but be higher at night. And if you never check it at night, you may not realize that it's higher at night. And so checking the blood pressure at different times a day, writing down the time, the date, and the blood pressure, just because for all of us, we have, people are busy, people are doing different things. It's hard to remember every number of every blood pressure you've had if it was 6 months ago. And so writing them down, keeping the numbers, making sure what the blood pressure is. I mean, I often say to people, I would be only half as busy as I am if we just did more in this country to control people's blood pressure. Because what I see is the end effects of people's blood pressure being high, where their heart becomes weakened, or sometimes people end up with with kidney disease, can end up on dialysis. People can have risk of strokes. People can have risk of heart attacks. And so I see the end effect of people's blood pressure not being controlled for years, instead of really what I would hope to do is on the front end, do things that control people's blood pressure to make sure that I don't end up seeing them at the point where they have a heart attack. So I'd much rather see somebody control their blood pressure than see someone in the setting of a big heart attack or that type of thing. And for my male patients, probably the strongest factor for them to, or one factor people, among my male patients, when I talk to them about it, they are certainly always concerned about the risk of stroke and heart attack. Right. But for men specifically, there's also a risk of erectile dysfunction, and oftentimes that is the realization that gets people to say, I'm going to get this blood pressure under control. So
Dr. Toca, I've never heard that simulation before, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Think about it as it's the high blood pressure, just like uncontrolled diabetes or high cholesterol, causes disease in the vessels and blockages of the blood flow through the vessels, and that's what leads to stroke and leads to heart attack and leads to erectile dysfunction. So certainly, like living a healthy lifestyle and controlling your blood pressure ends up being crucial. In terms of other numbers, for people who do have a weakened heart, knowing there's something called your ejection fraction, which is the squeezing of your heart. And so if you've had high blood pressure for a long time, or if you have have had heart problems or had a heart attack, knowing the squeezing of your heart and whether that's normal is another important number to know. So that's called the ejection fraction, and it's a percentage of blood that gets squeezed out of your heart. And so essentially that's the normal numbers are between about 55 and 65%. And it's one of those things just to ask your doctor. And so if you've had long-term high blood pressure, or you've had heart attacks, or you've had those things, asking your doctor, what's my ejection fraction, and knowing those numbers ends up being important.
There's another question from Michelle.
Excellent question. Good question, Michelle. So it does depend on the situation, how high the blood pressure is. For someone who has, the first thing I would say, Michelle's question was, if your doctor wants to put you on blood pressure, you're diagnosed with elevated blood pressure, your doctor wants to immediately put you on medicine, should you try alternative first? The first thing I would say is, with the medicines, even with medicines, it's not a this or that. The healthy diet and exercise are are going to be important for all of us, whether our blood pressure is high or not. And certainly if our blood pressure is high, we need to do those things aggressively. and then decide secondarily if we need medicines. But we need to be doing those things no matter what. And so it's always both, and not exercise and healthy diet or the medicines. It may be that you need to do exercise and healthy diet at a minimum, and then only if necessary the medicines. Whether they start you immediately on medicine it's hard to tell without knowing the specific situation, but depends on how high the blood pressure is. Someone who has a blood pressure of 200 and comes in, you're very concerned about their risk of stroke or the risk of something bad happening, and that person likely needs to be on medicines immediately. Someone with a mildly elevated blood pressure, it may be reasonable to do a trial of diet and exercise to try to make sure that the blood, and do everything possible to make sure the blood pressure comes down. But it does depend on exactly what the numbers are. Right. And I would work with your doctor to figure out, sort of a plan for that. But the other thing is, you want to, have a doctor that you're 100% comfortable with, who you talk to and can discuss these things and discuss the options. And two, I would think about, if you don't need to be on medicines, we don't want you to be on medicines. If you do need to be on medicines, we definitely want you to be on the right medicines for you. But if you don't need to be on medicines, don't want you to be on medicines. And so, but really, the key question is, do you need to be on medicines? And if you do, that you're on medicine.
So Dr. Toca, didn't mean to interrupt. I know you was I've got two more questions. This is a great segue into a few of the questions that the audience has. So here comes the next question. Is from Priscilla. She's saying, during this pandemic, because people are concerned about social distancing, what are some recommendations for exercising, especially in the gym?
Great question, Priscilla. Great person. And so we have a lot of patients who frequently went to the gym before the pandemic, and every time I'm in the office, someone says, "Well, I'm going back to the gym," or "When can I go back to the gym?" It's a difficult thing, because so people are so used to going to the gym, and that's the form of exercise they're used to. I would personally be very careful about going back to the gym. I used to go to the gym regularly, and I have not been back to the gym since March, to the gym that I go to. But I found other exercises that that I can do at home that are effective. The difficulty of the gym is, and certainly I have some patients who go and they are as cautious as possible. I would not recommend going, but if you were going to go, I would recommend wiping down the equipment yourself, trying to stay as much 6 feet away from people as possible. And if there is a location, like people who are in gyms like LA Fitness that have multiple locations, if one location has more people in mask and is more cautious than other locations, look for the location where people are most cautious. From what I have been told from patients, it seems like there's a lot of people in the gym are not wearing masks. And the particular risk of gyms and bars and things like that is that because one, people don't necessarily observe social distancing. Number two, a lot of people aren't wearing masks, and specifically in the gym, because people are sweating and that type of thing, the risk is presumed to be a little bit higher. And so I would be very careful with the gym. And I personally have not gone back to the gym. I ended up thinking about what I did personally was I looked at what things I had done in the past that I enjoyed that worked for me. And, we have, an exercise bike, and I had done P90X in the past. So I did that, but one of the programs, online, but I think finding something that works for you, and especially if there's something that's worked for you in the past, and finding something that's probably the most important part. And so, and there's a lot of options. If you look at the different YouTube videos or people who do Zumba is actually incredibly popular, and a lot of people really enjoy it. So just looking at all the different options of things that people may enjoy, because, a lot of times, like when you think about Zumba, that, dancing is actually, people are probably getting a better exercise or better workout than they might at the gym, and so.
Dr. Toca, I'm home on my elliptical with a injured knee, but I'm working it out, taking time. So Priscilla, thanks for that. It's just, I would say, exercise wisdom, everybody. Here comes another, Miles. Miles is out of Virginia. Miles Pittman. Good morning, Miles. What leads to plaque buildup in the arteries that causes blockage, Dr. Toca?
Great question. So the plaque buildup comes from from those risk factors we talked about. So high blood pressure is one thing, especially when it's not controlled well. Diabetes, when the blood sugar is elevated and it's not controlled well. People who smoke, there's all those things. Think about it like sludge building up in a drain pipe. All of those things, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the smoking, lead to sort of buildup of the plaque in the vessels. And then high cholesterol also leads to buildup of plaque within the vessels. And then, those things we can control. And then the things we can't control are things like family history. So for all of us, our genetics play a role. And so, I have patients who are, run marathons and do everything else, but they have a family history of heart disease, and their risk of blockages is higher, even though they are eating a healthy diet, they're running marathons, or doing other things. That part of it they can't control. And and the same is true with cholesterol and high blood pressure. There's patients who are doing everything right, but sometimes have very high blood pressure because of genetics. And so, but the key is doing as much as you can to control it with the healthy diet and exercise, and then doing the and then the genetic part, trying to do other things to make sure that it's controlled.
Thank you, Dr. Toca. That's good, because that's an 18-year-old about to graduate from high school that I believe, shout out, that's my godson, got a scholarship for softball. And so, baseball, let's not say softball. Softball's girls, right? Baseball's boys, but good information, especially for young athletes, sir.
Oh, and the one thing I want to say about age is sometimes a lot of my patients who are younger, who are in their 20s or even late teens, we think about, often, or even in, people who are older, we think, oh, when you're younger, you don't have heart disease, or, if you're eating Wendy's every day or doing whatever else, that doesn't relate to heart disease. The unfortunate reality is when we look at, when they look at studies, when you look at the vessels of someone who's 20 years old or 25 or 30 years old, that the process of those blockages starts in your 20s. There's a cholesterol streak. Those blockages are starting in your 20s, and then they build up over time, and it may be in their 40s when people have a heart attack. And so it's the beginning of, the heart attack when someone is 45 is really when they're 25, and all the habits there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sometimes people think if I'm doing something at 25, it doesn't affect me. It unfortunately, since these things build up over time, it all has an effect.
Wow, this is great information, Dr. Toca. I'm going to keep it rolling. They're coming up. Here's your girl, Ashley Bullock, Dr. Toca. What are some good things to eat to keep your heart healthy?
Good. Excellent question. And, there's not one specific, sometimes people ask, should everyone do the keto diet? Should everyone do the Mediterranean diet? There's not one thing for one person. The biggest thing is what the issue especially in the United States with our diet is that it's too much of certain things and too little of other things. Think we're really supposed to be eating, 5 to 6 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And a lot of times, we're not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. So we deplete our diet or don't have enough fruits and vegetables, but we eat a lot of, too much in terms of red meat, too much in terms of the preparation of fried meats and that type of thing. And then there's a lot of times too much salt in the food. The things I would do in terms of healthy diet is, one, make sure that I'm eating a certain amount of fruits and vegetables a day. And I would not say to people, some people say you can't eat any meat or other things. I think that's an individual decision. And I think, it's more everything in moderation. And so in general, what I would say is, if you're going to eat meat, eating like grilled meats, and especially lean meats like chicken and fish, making sure you have a certain amount of vegetables per day. Some people just love vegetables, and so for them it's an easy decision. And it's fruits and vegetables. So sometimes people eat some fruit, but they never eat vegetables. I would say both of those are very important. And so making sure that with the fruits and vegetables, making sure that, for some people it's just eating the vegetables. Some people it's finding a vegetable you like and eating that specific vegetable frequently. Some people do juicing, some people do smoothies, but finding something that works for you, that helps with making sure you're taking a certain amount of vegetables per day. In general, in my house, even for myself, but even for our 2-year-old, or for our 18-month-old, I make a smoothie at night, and I'll drink it at night. My wife will drink it at night. The baby will drink it in the morning. And so usually, every day we're drinking a certain amount, and we just, put fruit and vegetables in the blender.
That's good.
And
no, I'm sorry. We have several more questions before we move on, Dr. Toca. Is there a difference? And I wanted to make a comment between meat eaters versus the vegetarian vegans. I know we all have different styles. I know for a fact Ashley is a vegan, but there's balance with all, but is there any recommendations, meat eaters versus non-meat eaters?
Well, if a patient said to me, I don't eat any meat, that is a is great from the perspective that there's a risk in one, we too much meat, but there is certainly contained within meat. There's sometimes there can be a lot of things that are not good for us in the way we prepare meat. So certainly if someone is vegetarian or vegan, that is great from a healthy lifestyle standpoint. And when you look at people who either eat the Mediterranean diet or people who are vegan, in general, those people do in terms of longevity, live longer and do very well. So in general, that's a very good and healthy lifestyle. The one thing, well, at the end, I'll say one thing to be careful about with that, but in general, that's a very healthy lifestyle. But there are people who are patients, at least that I have, who it's going to be very difficult for. They have no interest in necessarily becoming vegetarian. So for that person, that may not be the right lifestyle choice. For someone who's done it, it's a great lifestyle choice and a great, it's very healthy. For other people, they may say, I'm going to moderate the amount of meat I eat, try not to eat a lot of red meat. I'm going to try to eat more grilled chicken and fish and not eat the fried. And I'm going to try to make sure I have a lot of vegetables and fruit in my diet, make sure I don't have a lot of sugar in my diet and that in desserts and that type of thing. The one thing certainly to be careful about being vegetarian is just to make sure that you're not replacing the meat with high carbohydrate food. Sometimes people are vegetarian and it's just, because there's so much high carbohydrate food, it's not, meat certainly there can be a lot of difficulties with eating meat and the way we prepare it and that type of thing. But there also can be a lot of problems with other processed foods. So I would say certainly at least minimizing the meat and trying to not eat a lot of processed foods.
That's good. Next question, Dr. Toca. By taking a diuretic pill to control my blood pressure, is that healthy for the heart and kidney?
Good question. So a lot of times diuretics are an important part of therapy for high blood pressure. You just had to, you had to watch individually closely to make sure it's the right medicine for you. I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all for each person. It's more figuring out with your doctor what exactly is the right medicine for you. Diuretic can be helpful in reducing the blood pressure. And in studies, we found that especially in African Americans, that diuretics and there's another group of medicines called calcium channel blockers may be more effective in bringing down the blood pressure than other medicines. So it can be something that's helpful. What the diuretic is doing is getting rid of the excess salt. So sometimes people will start a diuretic, like a lighter diuretic like hydrochlorothiazide, and they'll say, I'm urinating all the time. And the first thing I tell them is to decrease the salt in your diet because it's really getting rid of the excess salt. And so if you're not eating a lot of salt, you'll pee less. If you're eating a lot of salt, you may pee more. There's also other stronger diuretics that will make you urinate a lot either way. But for the lighter diuretics, it a lot of times is related to the amount of salt that you're eating. And then the other thing so diuretics can be helpful. You just want to make sure that you're also not dehydrating yourself. Certainly if you get dehydrated, that can affect the kidneys negatively. So you want to make sure that you're not getting dehydrated in the setting of taking a diuretic as well. So it can be the right medicine for a lot of people, but I would work with your doctor to make sure it's the right medicine for you individually, because every person's an individual. There's no one size fits all in healthcare.
That's good. Thank you, Dr. Toca. Oh, our young Miles, is lifting weights good for heart health?
So lifting weights is good in general, certainly. Our focus, I would say the first focus is on cardiovascular exercise. So if people are not doing cardiovascular exercise, I would not consider doing weightlifting. If someone is doing a good regimen of cardiovascular exercise and they add weightlifting to it, it is helpful. So the cardiovascular exercise, the running, the walking, the swimming, the biking, any of those things that get the heart rate up for a period of time, so get the heart rate up for 20 or 30 minutes, are very good for the heart. Think about it as weightlifting for the heart muscle. So by walking 30 minutes, you're strengthening the heart muscle and helping the heart muscle. As an addition to that, if you're already doing that, that has to be the foundation. So the cardiovascular exercise has to be the foundation. If in addition to that, people are doing weightlifting, it can be helpful for a couple reasons. One thing is just a lot of people are concerned about weight, and it can be when people do weightlifting and they have a little bit more muscle, it helps them burn more, just burn more daily calories, just with doing things. So it helps in that way, and it can be definitely helpful for overall health. But the foundation has to be the cardiovascular exercise. So I have a number of patients who lift a lot of weights but don't do any cardiovascular exercise, which is not a good idea. And so it has to be in combination, and the foundation has to be the cardiovascular exercise. Um,
Another question, should juvenile diabetics have cardiovascular checkups?
Good question. So you do want to certainly, at least with the endocrinologist, with the diabetes doctor, and then potentially with the cardiologist if there's any question, especially if the blood sugars have not been well controlled, because exactly what we're saying about the potential buildup of plaque in the arteries occurring over time. As a juvenile diabetic, that happens earlier because the onset of the diabetes is earlier. And so a child who has diabetes is at significantly higher risk of cardiovascular disease as they get older, into their 20s and 30s, than someone who does not have diabetes. And so certainly talking with your diabetes doctor about the potential to see a cardiologist ends up being important. And if it's necessary, and certainly if it's uncontrolled, it's a higher risk than if it's very well controlled. And so certainly that's something you want to think about, just to make sure the heart's okay, because the issues that we end up seeing do happen over time, and can be accelerated in someone with juvenile diabetes. So you want to be as careful as possible in the setting of juvenile diabetes. So that's an excellent question.
That's awesome. We've got one from Priscilla. If a person has a heart condition, should they get the COVID-19 vaccine? Straight, spot on, Priscilla. Thank you for that.
Yeah, this is a great question. This is a great question because this is a frequent question in the office and comes up all the time. And, it's one of those things to think about. What we worry about with COVID-19 is, we're all at risk from COVID-19. I think sometimes people say, oh, I'm doing the right thing, so I'm not at risk. We're all at risk and all need to be careful and all need to wear masks and all need to, as much as possible, stay away from crowds of people and stay 6 feet away from people. But at particular risk are people with heart disease and lung disease. And so the issue ends up being that people who have a risk of, who have heart disease or have lung disease are at higher risk from coronavirus, not lower risk. And so those people need to get the vaccine, as soon as it's available to them. For the people who need to be careful with the coronavirus vaccine, and again, it's an individual decision, but people need to be careful, or people who have a history of severe allergic reactions, like they carry an EpiPen with them, that type of thing. And people who have had coronavirus, if you've had coronavirus within the last 90 days, you need to wait 90 days to get vaccinated. But for people with lung disease or heart disease, other than that, I would really, really think about getting vaccinated. I mean, I've gotten both vaccinations, and I would say we've had many, many patients, call their, online. We had a lot of patients who were trying to get online, which ended up being very difficult a lot of times for people, just because the spots were so small and went so quickly. We've had many patients get the vaccine by calling their local pharmacy. By calling the pharmacies that have it, which in Atlanta are Publix and Georgia are Publix and Kroger, by calling their local pharmacy and getting, into those slots when people don't show up, by getting their vaccine. And so we've had a lot of patients do that and get their vaccination who are in the 1A group and some who are not. But we certainly would say, if you have, heart disease, if you have lung disease, and you want to get the vaccination. And hopefully, in the next few months, there's they're increasing. I think now each week they give out 11 million vaccines, and they're increasing the amount of vaccines every week. So the last 3 weeks, they've increased every week how much vaccine is coming out to each state. And so the hope is that by April or May, every person who wants to be vaccinated can be vaccinated, because we have 300 million doses that the country has purchased. And so hopefully every person can get vaccinated who wants to be vaccinated, or who is appropriate to be vaccinated. But certainly I would be more careful with heart and lung disease than I would be without. I want everyone to be careful, but I would certainly, really, really aggressively pursue the vaccine in that setting. And remember, you don't want to wait until everybody decides they want the vaccine, because that's going to be the hardest time to get the vaccine.
Exactly. We have one or two more questions coming up. Here's one right here, Dr. Toca, from Michelle. Though diabetes is said not to be curable, is it possible for a person to live a symptom-free life? If so, could a person be called cured if they are symptom-free for more than 5 years?
And with diabetes, what I would base it on is what the blood sugars are. So more so than the symptoms, the blood sugar. So if someone's blood sugar was normal off of medicine, And the best way to look at blood sugar for diabetes is the long-term blood sugar, that hemoglobin A1C. Think about that like a batting average. It looks at the blood sugar over weeks to months instead of over 1 second in time. And so if that hemoglobin A1C was normal, that blood test, that batting average was normal, looking at it over time for several years without medicine, that would say that the person is, we would say the person has diet control, that it's control with their diet as opposed to the medicines. And the big thing with, and there are definitely people, diabetes, so to some degree blood pressure, weight loss and things helps decrease people's blood pressure, but it is much more of an effect with diabetes. So for diabetes, weight loss and weight control really improves the secretion of the effect of insulin in the body. And so for diabetics, weight loss can be very helpful. So I've had a lot of patients who were diabetic and had very severe diabetes, and through various mechanisms had a lot of weight loss, and that helped them where they essentially did not need to be on medicines. Now they still need to be cognizant of their blood sugars and watching their hemoglobin A1C and do exercising, do all the right things, but they may have gotten off medicines. And so I would say, while it may provide for someone to not be on medicine, still being cognizant and careful about about the blood sugar is important. And so, because remember, that's diabetes is the body in one way, in one of two different ways, not dealing with the blood sugar correctly. And so you still have to be careful and still have to watch things and watch the blood sugar and make sure things are okay. Still have to really watch the diet and really do the exercise, even if you're not on medicine, even if the blood sugars have been normal, just to be careful.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Toca. And I've got a comment coming up from Miles saying, yeah, I'm doing cardio while lifting. Thanks, Lyndon, Dr. Toca. He's got to go back to school. But these are all very important questions, these answers, right, Dr. Toca?
Well, it's great that he's going back to school, and it's great that he's doing cardio and the weightlifting. Those the two together are great. And so that's perfect. So and it is also great that he's going to school. So the both of those are
coming from an 18-year-old.
Yes. That is good. And that is a great thing from the perspective that a lot of times, people who are 18 are not as concerned about their health. And so he sounds like he's somebody who's very concerned about his health at a younger age, which is a great thing and leads to, a healthy lifestyle forever. And I think sometimes at the extremes, when people are very, very young, and sometimes as we get older, we say, oh, I'm this age, I shouldn't, I can either do whatever, or I don't need to live a healthy lifestyle. And I can tell you, I have patients who are in their 90s who are doing better than patients I have who are in their 50s or 60s. And so the healthy lifestyle ends up being important to be a healthy 90-year-old. And obviously it's not all in our hands. We can't control everything. But we can do things that help the process.
That's great. We're going to take one more question, Dr. Toca. Then we're going to have you close out with a few things what you're doing outside of the medical field. And then we're going to let Dr. Toca go so he can see his patients, everybody. Here's the last questions from Denise. Should people see a cardiologist for heart checkups to detect plaque buildup? That's a good question.
Dr. That's a good question. That's a good question. It's a personal decision that I would base on a few different things. One is just the person's level of concern. There are patients who I've seen who, for various appropriate reasons are very concerned about their heart health. And, maybe that they have a family history. It may be that they've had symptoms. It may be that they have risk factors for heart disease. They have high cholesterol, or they have high blood pressure, or they have, and for those patients, certainly making the decision, to see a cardiologist just to make sure they're okay, can be an important decision. It's one of those things where sometimes there's patients I've had, even yesterday, a patient who really has no risk factors, but has a family history, and said, he said, I worry about this every day. I think about this every day, because he's had, a relatively, very serious situation with his father. And, and so he said, every day I think about is about heart disease, and I want to get checked out. And so, we did some testing to make sure his heart was okay. And so certainly for people who are concerned about it, for people who have risk factors, for people who have, for those people, but also, like we have patients with, who have had serious symptoms, who have had chest pain that they have attributed to other things, who have had, shortness of breath, dramatic changes in their exercise tolerance or shortness of breath and that type of thing. Certainly for those people, you need to get things checked out and make sure what's going on. Or if you've just seen your primary doctor or seen other doctors and your blood pressure is over time has not been controlled. If you see, hey, I've seen my primary doctor and my cholesterol is still high, or my blood pressure is still high, or it's not being controlled the way I think it should be. Those are other reasons why you might want to see a cardiologist. So while it's a personal decision, I think that oftentimes people wait too late to see a cardiologist rather than doing it too early. More is what I see much more commonly than people doing it too early. And, whether it's for severe symptoms or whether it's for peace of mind, in either scenario, as long as, we want to make sure that people are taken care of and that people's heart health is taken care of.
That's great. Now, Dr. Toca, I'm getting ready to put you on blast. I'm going to get a short testimony. I'm going to let you close out. So here's the blast. So you got to ask the question, Dr. Toca. Somebody said, promise to come back, Dr. Toca.
Oh, thank you, Denise. Thank you. I promise to come back. This is a great platform. We don't have enough platforms that give people, information or give people access to answer questions. So I think this is a great platform, and it's amazing how what you're doing is one of those things that unfortunately is rare. It gives people access to different people in different fields. And so this is I'll definitely come back. It's a great opportunity. And it's a great show.
So what I wanted to say, we've got about 3 more minutes. I'm going to be short. I wanted to tell everybody one of the reasons why I have Dr. Toca on, he is my personal cardiologist. And I will share with you all, I have a pacemaker. And I really owe my life, that's no pun intended, to Dr. Toca, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. And we're talking about 2013 when I passed out twice, true testimony, didn't know what was going on. One of my holistic doctors, Dr. William Richardson, shout out to Dr. Richardson, said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to send you to the best. He sent me to Dr. Toca. Dr. Toca was like, we're going to figure it out. He gave me this big old machine. I'm going to be transparent. I was like, what is this? A heart monitor? It wasn't a matter of weeks, I believe, Dr. Toca. He was like, you know what? Your heart is stopping, girlfriend. If you want to live, I think you want to get a pacemaker. So I just want to say publicly, thank you so much, Dr. Toca. It's been a pleasure and honor. He is the best doctor. I'm not just saying it. I mean it. He's more than a doctor. He's a colleague and friend. This man does super fantastic things with his 10,000 patients. I do lie about that, but it seems like it's 10,000. He specializes in each one of us. He has bedside manner. I don't even need to have to highlight that to Toca because he's got more than he needs in patients. He's got more opportunities that he leads in the community. But I want everyone to know he's the real deal. He cares about the African American community. That is why he's here. Y'all know it ain't easy to get a doctor to come on board and be real. So I want everybody out there in virtual land to give me those hearts and give me those flowers and give me those hands, because Dr. Toca is the real deal. He will come back. If it takes me 6 months, y'all just be patient. He'll squeeze us in. But Dr. Toca, I wanted you to just close out before I do a shout out to my sponsor in terms of what else you do outside of taking care of hearts.
Well, certainly, obviously, number one is my family. I have 2 beautiful daughters, a beautiful wife, and so that's the most important thing. But then also I think it's important that we as people and as physicians and as other things take care of, our heart health in many different ways. And so I actually own a restaurant that does healthy food and smoothies and that type of thing, because I think we don't have enough opportunities to get food that doesn't take a long time to get and that is actually healthy food. And so I have a franchise called Tropical Smoothie, which is on Piedmont Road.
And how long have you had that, Dr. Toca?
1845 Piedmont Road in Atlanta. It's I've had it for it's 2.5 years now.
Now, Dr. Toca, I'm keeping your time. You got about 3 more minutes now. He doesn't like to shine, y'all. Tell me about your history that I learned, Dr. Toca, about your family history about it. Come on, Dr. Toca.
Wait, about which? I couldn't hear you. Said what?
Your family history of the smoothie.
Oh, you're
digging on your family, sir.
So it is in the smoothie shop. There's actually my brother and father actually gave me a plaque of an article which is my great grandfather from the turn of the century, and it's actually a story that I take a lot from, which is that my family's originally from New Orleans, and my great grandfather they had where they before there were refrigerators where they delivered milk, and so they opened an ice cream business, and he actually made this like healthier ice cream recipe, and they had a lot of ice cream stores. They had many in the city. And, because, certainly now, and certainly at the turn of the century, there was a lot of bias and a lot of other things. And at that point, sort of in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they actually sued, this larger majority company sued him to try to stop him from having these ice cream shops because it was healthier ice cream. And, fortunately, he was, presumably a smart guy and a nice guy, and actually got a patent on the ice cream. And that's the only way he was able to stay in business, because I think they sort of unfairly tried to sue him out of business. So with that business inspiration, we decided to open up a smoothie company, a smoothie that does healthy food and smoothies. So we do about 50% food and 50% smoothies.
And I haven't been yet, but trust me, Dr. Toca, I'm coming down because you've been talking about that shop for a minute, and I want to stay healthy. I just want to take 2 more minutes. We got 2 more minutes, Dr. Toca. Michelle Walker Davis, I'm going to share her slide again. Thank you for being a sponsor. She says excellent content, wonderful interview. I mean, Dr. Toca, I don't even have to go there. People are in need. People are hurting. I know we talked about this a few years ago. I appreciate you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot to me, especially publicly connecting me with Dr. Priscilla, because we just had Dr. Hubbard on a few days ago.
I heard it was excellent.
This is important. Any closing comments, sir? Your last minute and a half.
Oh, just the one thing I would say is just making sure that you're taking care of yourself. I think so many times, and especially I would say even much more so among my female patients, they're doing such a phenomenal job taking care of everyone else. They're doing a great job taking care of their family, their friends, everyone else, but they are not taking the time to take care of themselves. And I think it's one of those things where you can't take care of anyone else unless you're taking care of yourself. And so in terms of obviously healthy diet and exercise, but also just in terms of, mental health, taking a break, having a space, to take care of yourself ends up being crucial and important. So the last thing I would say is just make sure that you're taking the time and space to take care of yourself, as well as taking care of others. And I would say among many of the patients I have, and even more so among my female patients, many of them are not, they're doing such a great job taking care of everyone else that they are not taking the time to take care of themselves. And so I would say definitely do that. You'll find some type of, there's so much stress in what's happening now. Find some specific activity that you do at least every week to make sure that you're that you're decreasing stress and taking care of yourself. So at a minimum, make sure you're, that you're, for some people it's exercise, for some people it's prayer, for some people it's meditation, some people it's yoga, whatever it is. It's something that I want to make sure that everybody is doing individually to take care of themselves, that they have the time and the space to do whatever it is to take care of yourself.
Dr. Toca, you are simply fantastic. I'm getting you out of here 5 minutes ahead of time because I respect you like that. I'm going to talk to the audience for a few minutes. We will get you back. Between me, you, and Sinead, we're going to get you back, Dr. Toca. Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. Go save the whole lot of hearts. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very, very much. All right. Thank you, guys. And thank you for these wonderful comments. Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Bye.
So there you have it, everybody. I just want to thank everybody online. I want to remind everyone as I take a minute to personally thank Michelle Walker Davis, who sponsored this segment today. Michelle Walker Davis is the Principal and Chief Development Officer with Imperial Management Group. Please, for those entrepreneurs, business owners, or people who are looking for money, please visit Michelle's website, www.imgconsulting.info. Imperial Management Group specializes in grant development and grant management. They help businesses and nonprofits develop award-winning proposals and secure funding from government, foundations, and industry sources. Her team, Michelle's team, is here to help navigate today's unprecedented situations surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact it could have on fundraising. Learn more by checking her out today. I tell you, audience, was this not a full segment? You guys got to write me in and let me know so we can definitely get Dr. Toca go back. It's very important that we do that. So without further ado, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I want everybody to please, if you're looking for funding, please reach out to Michelle Walker Davis' team. I can be a testimony. I'm in the process as we speak. You probably don't even know. I didn't know there's 850 billion. Let me say that again, $850 billion in grant funding. Have you applied? If you're eligible, even if you don't know you're eligible, I always say apply, 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 apply. Just go to her website. She'll give you a free consultation, or give her a call at a number. She's located out of Jersey, but she handles everyone worldwide. Again, Michelle Walker Davis, thank you so much for sponsoring this segment. Bela cannot survive without sponsorships. So I ask you all, if you have $1, $2, 99 cents, whatever it is, just try to help Bela to continue to have this great programming, because I'm telling y'all, I'm going after the whole health profession. I'm going after the whole financial aspect. Y'all, please stay tuned. A lot more coming up to Bela. I know we're going to end it earlier, but I just want to thank everybody right now for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in to the Bela Biz Unplugged. It's the real deal. It's unprecedented. It's unscripted. It's just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I have a large face base, and I want to thank you all. I want to take the time to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Michelle is letting me know the website is incorrect. I apologize. The website for Imperial Management Group is www.imgconsulting, imgconsulting.info. I thank you all. Kenosha, thank you for following me. I'm going to shout out some names. Chantel, Valerie, I think your first timer. Thank you. Hey, Melanie, boy, do I miss you. Shout out to Dr. William Richardson for bringing me to Dr. Toca. I'm going to tell y'all real quick before we go. It's more than a notion, this thing called life. Just when you think you're parlaying through, you're really not. It's all predestined. And just think about how you interconnect with people. I know I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Melanie, who is a health practitioner, helped me through talking to Dr. Richardson, who was the first doctor ever to tell me, you know what, Miss Bridges, I'm not quite sure what's wrong with you, but I'm going to send you to someone who does. I've never in my life, and I've been on this planet called Earth for a little bit, and no doctor's ever said to me, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to refer you out. Well, he did. I wouldn't be here today, is my testament. I wouldn't be here today if Dr. William Richardson, who has a wonderful staff called Melanie, who helped me personally for 4 years, get to Dr. Toca to figure out that my heart was stopping when I slept, y'all. Real story. My heartbeat stopped when I slept. And I think we all don't have to have a PhD to know, if your heart stops at a certain amount of time, guess what? Your DIE, right? Nothing but God's grace and mercy. And I thank God for saving me through Dr. Toca with this pacemaker that I had since 2013. And I'm telling y'all, I ain't skipping a beat, okay? So without further ado, I thank you all. Let's continue to celebrate Black History Month. As I say, Black History Month is not just February. It is 365 days out of the year. And if I had the opportunity to interview you all, spotlight you, I would, because we are beautiful, proud people based off of our legacy and our heritage. We must continue the good fight, the fight, never stop the fight. It never ends, y'all. We never will arrive. We are going to continually evolve. So without further ado, Bela Biz Unplugged. We thank you again, Michelle. Shout out to my sponsor. Thank you for this segment. Come on, y'all. Y'all know it's the real deal. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Until we meet again, and I will be back live next Thursday. Again, that's next Thursday with another powerful segment of the Bela Biz Unplugged. So you all be easy. Check out my girl, Michelle. We've got to endorse each other, not just during Black History Month, but every day. We are powerful. We are beautiful people. Kenosha, I love you. I'm going to have you up here next. Y'all take it easy. Have a great Friday morning. Thank you so much for coming in and listening to Dr. Toca. Everybody have a great evening. Good night.